Back to the NBA and the latest big three. It's in the Big Apple. So of these three, who's the go-to guy at crunch time? Who would you want to have the ball? Who gets the play called for them? Well, Second Spectrum, since they started tracking at the start of the 14 season, Harden, Kyrie, and KD rank in the top 8, and ISOs in clutch time. That's defined as the last 5 minutes and the scores within 5 points. Durant's 1.19 points per possession on those plays is actually the best among the trio. So you're welcome. That should be your answer. Reaction around the league as this news broke yesterday and today, beginning with the two-time defending MVP, Giannis.
It's an amazing move for Brooklyn. Obviously, they got better, way better. And they're really powerhouse right now in the East. Having KD, James Harden, Kyrie Irving together in one team, that's tough.
Obviously trades and things happen every year. And, for me, my main focus on what we do here and how we continue to get better. And that was the case today. The trades happened today, and I couldn't allow myself to kind of indulge in that, knowing that we had a team that we had to play tonight. So my main focus today was on the Thunder.
Eric, is there a sense of relief that the limbo is now over?
Well, the only thing is now we have we have more direction on what it needs to do even more at this point. That's all that is.
ESPN NBA reporter Brian Windhorst joins me now live. And Brian, it looked like this deal came down to the wire, really, between Harden going either to Philadelphia or where he ended up in Brooklyn. What more can you tell us about what happened behind the scenes that led to the Nets ultimately winning out?
Yeah, this is a question that has been asked around the league for the last 24 hours, is if Ben Simmons was on the table, which all signs point to him actually being available in trade, an all-NBA player under a 5-year contract, 22 years old, why would Houston not take the sure thing and instead go with the draft picks from Brooklyn? And the scar tissue that exists between the Rockets organization and Philadelphia President Daryl Morey is something that cannot be ignored here. And only Tillman Fertitta and Rafael Stone, the people who executed the trade in Houston, know that. But it is surprising that they would go that direction and against the unknown picks. The other thing, Sage, the two young players that Brooklyn gave up in this trade, Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, neither of them stayed in Houston. They were both rerouted elsewhere, right. Which indicated this was a trade that saved money as well.
Wow, incredible. A lot of people talking about that for very good reason. The key player heading to the Rockets now then in that 4-team deal is Victor Oladipo, who is eligible for free agency at the end of the season, this expiring contract. So what is his long-term outlook in Houston, Brian?
Yeah, so he has made it clear to the Pacers that he is looking for big money in this offseason, hoping to have a big year. And if the Rockets are indeed watching their payroll, which their other moves imply, it's not out of the realm of possibility, and other teams are expecting Victor Oladipo potentially to be available in trade again this year. A couple of teams to keep an eye out for. The Dallas Mavericks and the Miami Heat are two teams that were expected to pursue Oladipo in free agency. They couldn't maybe make a deal with the Pacers. Maybe now they can make a deal with the Rockets. Also keep an eye on PJ Tucker, a possibility to be traded. I don't think the Rockets are done shopping players to get off salary and also to get draft picks.
And for Oladipo, one final note, as good of a player as he has proven to be, this is now his 3rd team in just the last 5 seasons. So interesting as he continues. Remember, he had the injury a couple years ago as well. So got a new big 3 in the NBA, and it's in the Big Apple. The news of James Harden heading to Brooklyn to join KD and Kyrie is still sinking in for many, and now it's official. The 4-team trade that landed Harden in Brooklyn was officially announced earlier today. Remember, this deal comes after months of speculation about the future of the 2018 league MVP, who wanted to be traded to the team. He got traded to the team he wanted, creating a virtual finals or bust expectation. GM Sean Marks on making the move for Harden. He spoke today. Listen.
I think we know what James is capable, on the court. We've seen that when you're bringing in, MVP, first NBA team caliber player, he knows what he's capable of doing. And then when, we've had conversations with him, and he's so eager to get on the court with these guys and be part of this and start fresh. I don't want to speak for each one of them because I'll let them have their own voice and their own narrative around this. But I think they understand that there's without a doubt going to be some nights where one or two need to sacrifice for the other and so forth. But I think they're all looking for that common goal. We're all looking for that common goal, as I've said before, is to be the last team standing.
That is everybody's goal. Let's say hello to NBA reporter Malika Andrews joining us now for more on this story. So, Malika, what else can you tell us about when we might see James Harden suit up for the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, Sage, James Harden is landing in New York imminently now, this evening. And after that, he's going to need to go through a physical. But before he can play, not only does he have to pass a physical examination, but every player that's involved in this four-team trade, all of them have to pass it. And then once that happens, the questions shift for the Nets about how they can gel on the court. But Sean Marks said that he consulted with his stars while he was making this deal and constructing it. And what he was most pleased about is all of their conviction that they want to win, that they are committed to trying to make this work, to work towards that end goal of winning a championship. He said that, yes, he heard what James Harden said in Houston on the final days that he was there and how unhappy he was. But what is important to him is that James's message to Marks was, I want to win. That is all I care about, and that's what Marks cares about now.
All right, let's talk now then about the elephant in the room, really, Kyrie Irving. He has now missed the Nets' last 5 games, citing personal reasons. And, of course, he does remain under league investigation for potential violations of the COVID-19 protocols. GM Sean Marks, again, you heard him a second ago about James Harden. Here he is today also on the absence of his star point guard.
Without a doubt, the organization's disappointed with not having, any one of our players, in this particular case, Kyrie, not amongst us. I don't want to speculate and say why he's out and so forth. I've had conversations with him. We look forward to him, being back in the gym. But, you also hope there is an adequate, more than adequate excuse as to why he needs personal time. And, he will address that without a doubt.
All right, so Sean Marks there, again, of course they're looking forward to having Kyrie come back, but it may not be up to the Nets, you're saying? Fill us in.
That's exactly right, Sage. Because of what you mentioned, that league investigation, the league has to determine, even though Sean Marks said that Kyrie Irving just today has been testing every single day that he has been away from the team, it is up to the league to decide whether or not he violated league protocols in appearing to go to a family birthday party. Remember that video that had been circulating online? Because players cannot go to bars, they cannot go to clubs, they cannot go to events or gatherings of more than 15 people. So if the league determines that he did in fact break that rule, he could be subjected to a quarantine, which would further his return to the court. It would further push back that return to the court date. So that is what Sean Marks says that he is waiting on. He said he's hopeful that that decision comes soon so they can make a plan to get Kyrie Irving to come back with the team.
The Nets are scheduled to host the Magic.
Any Stephen A., Max, Jalen Rose, he still have a lot to prove. And if he beat this super team, along with what he did beating the Golden State Warriors, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, I don't want to hear no more GOAT conversation, all right? Because it's over. Might as well crown King James, all right? That's what I'm saying, Zoo. That's what my tweet meant.
Yeah, no, Perk, you're right, but it's just I'm in between, right? Like MJ, LeBron, those guys, Magic, them. I just enjoy watching greatness. So but I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying about beating this trio. It will put you at another level.
But Keith, look, and I don't fault you for that because listen, if I go and sit down with my grandpa and my great uncles, they'll argue me down that Kareem or maybe Magic is the GOAT or maybe even Bill Russell, right? If I go sit down with some of my uncles, they may say that, hey, they go ride with Michael Jordan. If I go sit down with this generation, they go ride with LeBron James. So what that tells me is some people like to drink cream soda, others like to drink Sprite, and some people like to drink Dr. Pepper. It's whatever your preference is. I'm not even mad at you about that. The thing that I have a problem with is that when people start saying, like, championships define a basketball player legacy all the way. And that's not true and it's not accurate because basketball is a team sport. This is not an individual sport like boxing or tennis or golf where you have to win championships to define your legacy. Do championships help your legacy? Absolutely, but it's a lot of individual accolades throughout for basketball players that actually could elevate them for as being an all-time great.
Perk, what was your feelings? And you knew this all along. Obviously, you know James Harden. The way James went about positioning himself to leave Houston to get to a destination that his taste buds would like. What did you think about that?
You know, I was a little disappointed in James. And James is a great dude, man, great friend of mine. But I was a little disappointed in him. And they have this old saying, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I wasn't mad at James for requesting a trade or wanting to go to a title contender because he is getting up in this age and he is going past his prime. But the way he did it, especially the last interview, one thing we all know, especially you, Jay and Key, is that the last thing you should do is throw your teammates under the bus. And I thought he did just that by saying we're not good enough, we're not talented enough. Like, you don't have to say that about your teammates. They already know that you don't want to be there. Even if you feel that way, you're supposed to keep that inside. So I don't have a problem with him wanting out. I just didn't like the way that he conducted himself. And on another note, his professionalism, showing up late to training camp, showing up out of shape. Because here's the thing, it gets a little deeper with me. It's going to hurt the next generation, in my opinion. Guys like Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, who paved the way for guys like James and Kyrie and Kevin Durant and LeBron James to be getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars. Guess what? The way that certain guys are acting right now, they're burning that bridge down. It's going to hurt the future. And that's not what you want to do, because guess what the owners go do? They go to the next CBA and they go be like, nah, we need to reconstruct some things. We need to address some things. I don't know if we could give guys $100 million.
That's a great point. Perk brought it back to the past with Michael Jordan, now looking ahead to the future on what this could possibly mean. We should mention the deal is now official. It had been unofficially official for a while, but here's the statement from the Nets GM, Sean Marks. And by the way, has he been swinging for the fences since he got the job all the way around? Quote, adding an all-NBA player such as James to our roster better positions our team to compete against the league's best. He went on to then say James is one of the most prolific scorers and playmakers in our game, and we are thrilled to bring his special talents to Brooklyn. Jay?
Big Perk, does this now, considering the way James Harden got out, you talk about him being unprofessional, you talk about the way he threw some teammates under the bus, with everything happening with Kyrie, does this turn the Brooklyn Nets into the new villains of the NBA?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I people are going to be waiting for them to fall or waiting for them to fail. They're not bringing a fan base there, I tell you that much, especially the way that Kyrie is handling things right now. And I tweeted about Kyrie when he first said that he wasn't playing because of everything that's going on in the world today. I said, you know what? If any player decide to take a game or two off and decompress or want to address some in social justice issues or address what's happening around the world, I'm okay with that. But then when the video surfaced and then when I found out he wasn't communicating with the organization and things to that nature, that's when it raised the red flag for me. And to top it off, he's the vice president of the Players Association. So when I said about 4 or 5 months ago, when they voted Kyrie in as the vice president, I said, oh, Lord, the blind is leading. This is exactly why I made that statement.
Big Perk, speaking of Kyrie, what do you think is actually going on? And how does that affect this team when he does decide to come back?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we all wondering what's going on. Hell, I think Sean Marks and the organization and Steve Nash wonder what's going on, and I think that's why they pulled out their Liberty Mutual